What's up, everyone? Lord Ryujin here again for another YouTube broadcast. Thanks for joining me today. Real quick, I wanted to go over something that I said I was going to discuss in the previous video that I did. I'm going to talk about resolution. I've stated this before. I don't give a crap. To me, it's a pissing contest. That's exactly the way I see it. It's sort of like back in the old days when we have 16 bits, we have 32 bits, well we have 64 bits. It's just a number. That's all it is. How does the game, and this is just a crazy concept, how does the game play? And as long as it's smooth, I don't care. And I know that there are some people that say, well, then you want to have 60 frames per second. How can you say you don't care? Well, I'll tell you how I don't care. And again, maybe this is just me, but I have looked at YouTube. Now that YouTube does 60 frames per second, I've done side-by-side videos of 30 frames per second, 60 frames per second, and I see no difference. Not one. So if it runs at 30 frames per second, 52 frames per second, 79 frames per second, I'm not going to notice a difference. Now, it may be small stuff here and there, and as long as it doesn't run like, as long as it doesn't do that, I'm cool with it. And trust me, I know about that, because I used to live somewhere where the internet was horrible. It was like 15 megabytes per second or something like that, and I thought that that was decent at the time, because it was DSL. Then we moved somewhere else where I've already said before, it dropped to less than a megabyte. I want to let that sink in. There wasn't even 1 megabyte. It stunk. Online play was impossible. And I've already stated before that in order to do a YouTube video, I had to drop it down to like 144p or something, and pause it for 5 minutes and let it catch up. Like, it was just horrible. Horrible. And the router was right next to it. So it's not like it was this whole thing of like, oh, well, you had a bad Wi-Fi connection. No, it was right there next to it. I even had it physically plugged in, and it still stunk. And now finally, I have a decent speed. It's not the best. It's not 60 some odd megabytes, but I mean, it's decent. And I have no problem doing online anymore. So as long as it runs smoothly, I'm not going to care. These people that are talking about 30 frames this, 60 frames that, I don't care. 900p this, 1080p that, I don't care. And you're like, well, how can you not care? I'm an old school gamer. That's how I don't care. I just went through and I just played Deus Ex on my PlayStation 2. Obviously, it's not running at 1080p, 60 frames per second, but I still played it because it was playable. I'll go back there and play the original Mario World or the original Super Mario Brothers 3 or something. That's what I'll do. That's just my opinion, of course. I just don't care about resolution. As long as it runs smooth, and I understand that that's kind of a contradiction, because people will say, well, 60 frames per second is smooth. And that's fine. Maybe it is. Because Mario Kart 8 is supposed to be 60 frames per second. But honestly, when I go back and I watch, I don't see it. It just looks really bright and colorful, and it looks really good, and it runs nice. But I think even if it ran at 50 frames per second, it would still look good to me. There's people that say that you can't see past 30 frames per second anyway, or past 28 frames per second anyway. I don't know about that. I don't know how much crap that really is. There's a lot of people that say that that really is crap. And it's mostly just because our eyes, it catches the connection, I guess. So maybe it's my eyes. I did need glasses after all, and for many years I thought I didn't. So maybe it is. Or maybe it's because my monitor or whatever doesn't notice it, so I tried looking at it on a high definition television. I still didn't see the difference. So maybe it's just me, but I don't notice much of a difference between 30 frames per second and 60 frames per second. So as long as the game is running smoothly, I don't care if it's 1080, 900, 720. You know, people were just like, well, the Wii ran it for. I remember there was people that they made a big deal about the fact that, oh, the Wii isn't in high definition. When you upgraded it to its highest definition, it's only 420i. That's high definition. You may not want to believe it. Maybe it's sub HD to you, but if it's not standard definition, it's high definition. And again, there's all kinds of high definitions, from 420i to 720p to 1080i to 1080p to 4K. There's all kinds of middle grounds, you know? And so does a game always have to run at 4K settings with 120 frames per second in order to be the best game and to be playable? No, I don't believe that. I don't believe for a second that a game has to be 4K running at 120 frames per second to be the absolute best game. As long as it's got a good story, it's playable, doesn't lag like a sucker. And I'm talking like, you know, robot movements. That's fine. I'm okay with it. And maybe that's just me. And maybe my opinion will change down the road. It has changed before. You know, I really did not think that, you know, 1080 was going to make that much of a difference to me. I thought, well, I can still play a game. But then I've gone into this story before about how I played Prototype, and I could not read it. I had a high definition 1080p television, and I had just the regular 360 connectors, you know, the regular audio video jacks plugged in there. And I couldn't read it. I went off and bought a HDMI port, you know, bought an HDMI cord, plugged it in there, boom, instant. I didn't think that 4K TVs were that big of a deal. I went to like Best Buy or Sears or something, and I went and I saw side-by-side comparisons, and I saw the difference. You know? So I'm sure that down the road, when we learn to really maximize 60 frames per second, that when I go back and I play a game, I'm like, yeah, I can really see it now. But just as of right now, I do not see a difference. You know, you can tell me that this game is running at 30 frames per second, 720p, and you can tell me that this game is running at 1080p, 60 frames per second, and I'll probably go like, looks the same. Because to me, it's that insignificant. I mean, if I pick up a controller and I'm playing and I'm having a good time, I'm not going to give a crap. I mean, I've stated this before in a previous video, that as long as I'm able to run and jump up and assassinate somebody, I'm not going to care if Assassin's Creed is running at 60 frames per second or 40 frames per second. I'm not. Because in the heat of the moment, I'm focusing on what I'm doing. As long as it's not, I'm jumping in midair and then I pause for 10 seconds, which would anger me, because I'm like, what is going on? As long as it doesn't do that, I'm good. I don't know. But that's me being a console gamer. I'm sure that maybe PC gamers out there, that maybe they see the difference because they have the hardware that can handle it. Maybe they have like 2 or 3 TVs together so they can see it. I don't know. And maybe in the future I'll be able to see it. But as of right now, I have a 1080p television in the living room. I have a 720 in my game room, and I have this computer monitor here, and I have another one at work. Everything that I view, 30 frames per second, 60 frames per second, side by side, I don't see a difference. And that's just me. And of course, that's my opinion. Make sure you share yours. Thanks for watching, guys. And as always, have a good one.